and I never knew I was any different for a long time.
On any given Sunday, go with Loretta Guest to the Indian Baptist Church in Seminole County, Oklahoma, and you'll find red and black Seminoles praying together, singing hymns in Seminole, sharing meals and catching up on tribal news.
Hi, dog.
Walk with her through the Indian cemetery out back, and you'll find their ancestors are buried together as well.
My aunt is next to him.
Were there any distinctions made as to, you all are the Black Seminoles, we're nice to you, but you're the Black Seminoles?
No, nothing like that. We've always been treated as one to another. No difference at all.
It was an alliance that began more than 300 years ago in Florida, when runaway slaves and different Indian tribes sought refuge together and later fought the white man. Joe Opala, a history professor at James Madison University in Virginia, says that from the beginning it was a melting pot tribe. So these people all banded together and somehow became Seminole?
Became Seminole, and in fact the word Seminole is not even an Indian word. It is derived from a Spanish word, cimarron, meaning runaway slave. And so from the beginning you don't have an Indian tribe. It was a multi-ethnic coalition.
Historical evidence documents their close relationship. Blacks became chiefs, signed treaties, and served on the tribal council. They intermarried. They were equals, Opala says, and the Indians depended on them as warriors and interpreters. So there absolutely is proof of the Black Seminole importance to the tribe.
Absolutely. There's a lot of intelligence information that passes back to Washington. For instance, General Jessup, the commanding general, writes back at one point to the War Department and says, the Negroes rule the Indians. What he was referring to was the fact that no significant decision was ever taken in the Seminole councils unless the black members agreed to it.
When the red and black Seminoles were forced out of Florida in the 1830s, they traveled together hundreds and hundreds of miles by boat and on foot, passing through this barren place on the banks of the Arkansas River all the way to Oklahoma. It was a long and difficult journey, referred to as their Trail of Tears for the many who died along the way. Now, nearly 200 years later, comes the $56 million payment from the federal government to compensate the tribe for those lost Florida lands. But the Black Seminoles can't share in it because the government and the tribe say they were slaves of the Red Seminoles back then, and as slaves could not have owned land. Joe Opala, who has worked to preserve their legacy, says that's wrong.
The Black Seminoles fought side by side, died, bled for those lands in Florida. They've been together, they've been good brothers and good neighbors for 3 centuries. It makes no sense now to say they're not Indians.
Our ancestors were some of the most fiercest fighters during the war.
During the Indian Wars?
Yes, due to the fact that they knew if they were recaptured, they were going into slavery, back into slavery.
Bud Crockett and his sister Polly Gentry traced their Seminole roots back to their great-grandmother Dora Davis, who came to Oklahoma on the Trail of Tears. But family legend and physical resemblance aren't enough. Today you have to be able to prove your Indian heritage, which is hard for most Black Seminoles because of something called the Dawes Rolls, a government census of sorts created in the late 1800s, which separated the tribe into the Blood or Red Seminoles and the Freedmen or Black Seminoles. Intermarriage made no difference, as Polly and Bud discovered with their ancestors.
If you had any black blood in you whatsoever, you were a freedman.
So it didn't matter how much Indian blood you had. Just
right.
Any black blood,
right.
You went on a separate roll.
Right.
And on the Black Seminole roll, it doesn't list that you have any Indian blood.
That is correct.
Mm-hmm. Did you feel equal to the Blood Seminoles?
Sure, at one time, yes. Still do. Still do. But when money and the government entered into the picture, everything changed. Everything changed.
If they don't have any Indian blood, then, or prove it, then they're not looked at as Indians.
Putting aside that history of togetherness, the Blood Seminoles are going by the book, that is, the government's book. They're relying on that 100-year-old census which separated the Black Seminoles from the rest of the tribe in determining just who gets the government money today.